So I'm recording this on a Sunday morning. It's quiet out. The birds are chirping. It's the perfect time for part 3 of our mini course on Emmett Fox's 7-day mental diet. Hopefully at this point, you've read the pamphlet, the short pamphlet. Like I said, I like getting hard copies. I like this little red pamphlet. Divorce, I think that's how you say it. Divorce Publications. They've had this pamphlet out for about, almost 90 years. This pamphlet has existed. But obviously, you can read the 7-day mental diet online. So, yeah, this is, again, what I think some of you are going to find valuable from this mini course is I'm going to, obviously give some of my own opinions on doing the diet. I've done the diet, I think, 5 times. And I'm hopefully going to just clarify a few points that you maybe were unclear about before. We ended last part 2 of this mini course just talking about this Fox quote from it. Unless you are determined to cultivate a good disposition, you may as well give up all hope of getting anything worthwhile out of life. And it is kinder to tell you very plainly that this is the case. And I was saying, that's kind of tough love from Fox, but gosh, if you think about that in just like a very much a common sense way, isn't it basically the truth? Unless you're determined to cultivate a good disposition, you might as well give up hope of getting anything worthwhile out of life. There's a lot of truth there, even though it's kind of a bitter pill to swallow. And what these 7 days are intended to do is help us cultivate this disposition of ours. And even though it's a very short period of time that we do this method, when we do it 7 days, it's not about the effect it's going to have over you for just 7 days. It's about the effect it's going to hopefully have on you for all your days going forward. That's what Fox is getting at. So he continues on to say, if you are not determined to start in now and carefully select all day the kind of thoughts that you are going to think, you may as well give up all hope of shaping your life into the kind of thing that you want it to be, because this is the only way. Again, this is some pretty stark advice, and it's also some pretty darn truthful advice that Fox is saying. He's saying you have to, figure out a way to cultivate the direction of your thinking, the direction of your moods. And the 7-day mental diet is a way of doing that, is what Fox is saying. He continuing with this bitter medicine. He says, in short, if you want to make your life happy and worthwhile, which is what God wishes you to make it, you must begin immediately to train yourself in the habit of thought selection and thought control. This will be exceedingly difficult for the first few days, but if you persevere, you will find that it will become rapidly easier, and it is actually the most interesting experiment that you could possibly make. In fact, this thought control is the most thrillingly interesting hobby that anyone could take up. You will be amazed at the interesting things that you will learn about yourself, and you will get results almost from the beginning. So this is a hugely important paragraph in the pamphlet. Again, you really, if you're watching this mini course, you have to read this pamphlet, and you have to read a paragraph like that a few times, really, to really begin to digest it, in my opinion. First of all, this idea, again, of training yourself in the habit of thought selection and thought control, when I hear that makes me almost a little bit uncomfortable. It feels like brainwashing. You're brainwashing yourself. And obviously, language has changed a little bit from 1935 when Fox originally wrote this. And we all have different opinions. As I was saying yesterday, you can argue, if you have absolute control over your thinking or not. But I do not think anyone watching this video will argue that we have in the very least, we have a large degree of control over the direction of our thoughts and of how reactive we are to our thinking and how we play into our thinking and into our moods for good or bad. We have a large degree of control over that. So when you hear things like thought selection and thought control, don't let that overwhelm you, okay? You're about to see this more as Fox goes along. This isn't what he's going to suggest we do for 7 days is not this far out weird brainwashing thing. It involves just looking at our thinking and our reactivity and dealing with the feelings that come up in a different way, not reacting as critically or self-judgmentally to the thoughts and feelings that arise compared to how we usually do, and doing this for 7 days straight. This is what he means by thought control. And as I mentioned earlier, and I think part one, and one thing I like about Fox is, listen, he doesn't beat around the bush. Too many of these LOA YouTubers and, LOA people in general make it seem like, oh, this technique's easy, change your life in 3 days. It's just not like that. At least very rarely like that. Fox says in regards to this diet, in regards to, working with your thinking in this new way, working with your feelings in this new way, he says this will be exceedingly difficult for the first few days. But if you persevere, you will find that it will become rapidly easier, and it's actually the most interesting experiment that you could possibly make. This is fascinating. First of all, working with your imagination, working with your thoughts, working with your feelings, working with your fear, working with these deep emotional, I almost want to say programming that we've had since we were kids, and working through the resistance we might feel when we're trying to improve our life. If you get into it, as I often say, it becomes very interesting. It's something you want to do. You want to work with your feelings, and you recognize your difficult thoughts and feelings are probably there for a reason, and you want to work with them. And you realize by working with them and moving through them, instead of just denying their presence or just fighting at the outside world because they're there, but instead work inwardly with what's causing your outside world to be the way it is a lot of the time. By doing that, not only do you feel better, but you just feel more gratified and more interested in living. And your external world changes as well, okay? But what we often see, what Fox says here is that this will be exceedingly difficult. This mental diet will be exceedingly difficult, particularly the first couple days. This is not always the case, but generally speaking, I've seen this when I've done it. I've seen this generally when I've suggested it to clients and they reported back results. And I also have seen it a lot in my own life, and when I lived at a Zen center, going on like a week-long retreat. This is similar to like a week-long retreat, in my opinion, in many ways. Often retreats, when we're doing inner work like this, the first couple days are the most difficult. Not always. Sometimes the first day can be ecstasy, or, we have revelations right away and it's great. But generally speaking, the first few days are more difficult. And after day 2 or 3, sometimes 4, usually like day 3-ish is like you like kind of get over the hump and things become smoother. You become more used to it. Again, this is not always the case, but this is just so you know, if you start this mental diet and the first day or 2 are very, very, very hard, understand that's actually a good thing. It's part of the process, and that in all likelihood, you're going to gain clarity. It's going to become easier once you get to like the end of day 3 or day 4. Generally speaking, that happens a lot, not just with these mental diets, but like when you do like a meditation retreat or something like that. So I think that's an important undervalued point. Obviously, everybody's different, but that's a general observation that Fox seems to have made, and that I've made in my own life. Fox goes on to say, in fact, this thought control is the most thrillingly interesting hobby that anyone could take up. That's another way of saying, like, these manifesting ideas, these manifesting concepts are some of the most interesting things that you could decide to pursue and try to apply practically into your life. In regards to this diet, Fox says, you will be amazed at the interesting things that you will learn about yourself, and you will get results almost from the beginning. So again, why this 7-day mental diet is so effective in such a short period of time is because it's intense. It's because you are not beating around the bush. You are directly looking at what you're thinking and how you react, how you feel about what you're thinking. And you're not allowing yourself to dwell in negativity, as we're going to go into more in the following videos. It's an intense process, but you're going to see results. You're going to notice how you feel more, and you're going to see results from noticing how you feel more almost immediately. So this is a very worthwhile thing to do, in my opinion. You don't have to do it. There's other manifesting techniques, obviously, but the 7-day mental diet is, the real deal if you want to see a shift in your life quickly. Then, we'll go more into this in the next video, but Fox says here, like, many people know this truth, right? What we're talking about here. And they make sporadic efforts from time to time to control their thoughts. But his point is, though, that our thinking, it's so constant. He says the thought stream being so close to us, right? How we think, our habitual thinking, it's so close to us. We don't create that gap, like I mentioned last video, a lot of the time. This week presents us a chance to create that gap, to not be as reactive. Because we don't create that gap a lot, we say we want to change our thoughts, but we're unable to do it. He says, as I pointed out, the impacts from outside are so constant and varied that we do not make very much progress if we say we want to change our thinking, but don't really devote ourselves solely to doing it for a period of time. He says, this isn't the way to work. Your only chance to change things is to definitely form a new habit of thought, which will carry you through when you're preoccupied or off your guard, as well as when you're consciously attending to business. Because that's the way to do this, to change your reactivity for good, is to actually go on a diet and make it your focus. This new thought habit must be definitely acquired, and the foundation of it can be laid within a few days. And the way to do it is going to be as follows. We'll go over that next video. But basically, he's going to tell you that you must make up your mind to devote 1 week solely to the task of building a new habit of thought. So in other words, often we hear people about trying to change things. I want to make effort. I want to change the way I think. They try for a day or two and they give up. Fox says that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is say, listen, for the next week, this is my focus. I'm going to still live my life, but my focus, my priority, my inner focus is going to be on this mental diet. If you make up your mind and devote 1 week to really doing it and make it your focus, you're going to start seeing results. How we're going to spend that week, we're going to go into more next video. All right, I hope this was helpful. If you want coaching and counseling about this or other related topics in regards to improving your life and feeling better, you can email me at info@radicalcounselor.com. I am here for support. And until next time, enjoy.